Hello, and welcome to Salesforce Release Readiness Live. We're here to talk about the Winter 18 release. So thank you to all of you who've been joining us throughout the week. And today we're going to be covering the Salesforce platform. I'm so excited to be joined by Salesforce product managers so we can hear about the latest and greatest features and innovations in the Winter 18 release that you can take advantage of. Now, I'm sure many of you have hopefully pored over the release notes, read the blogs, taken a deeper look at some of those Winter 18 features that are coming to your environments, and maybe even gotten hands-on with your sandboxes or your pre-release environments. But today we're going to have a chance to go even deeper into those features and hear from the product managers who helped deliver those features about how they work, how you can take advantage of them, how you can work with them today, and we're also going to get the chance to ask questions. So right now I'm going to kick it off to our community rockstar, Elna Miller, so she can tell you how you can engage with us throughout today's broadcast and ask questions that we're going to be answering live on the air and on social media. Elna?
Thanks, Leanne. Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 3. I'm really excited to see what we have today. And also, I'm very excited to see your questions and ask as many as I can live. Please post your questions and shout-outs in either Twitter or the Release Readiness group in the Success community. I do encourage you to post your questions that are more meaty in nature to the Success community in the Release Readiness group because we can have a better conversation there that's not limited to 140 characters. So give us your questions there and make sure you use the hashtag Salesforce Live, especially on Twitter, because that's the only hashtag I'm following. So also, this is Blaze. I'm not sure if anybody have met her, but she's here today with me, and she's very happy to join us today. So thank you, and back to you, Leanne.
Awesome. Thanks, Elna. I love the mascot. So as Elna said, we want to hear from you. We want to engage with you throughout the broadcast today. We love seeing your reactions on Twitter, and we definitely want to sometimes get into more deeper conversation, and some product answers require more than 140 characters. So as Elna said, those longer questions or more in-depth questions, great place to post them is the Success community. Those reactions and engaging with us real-time, hashtag Salesforce Live on Twitter. So today's session will be recorded, as are all of our Salesforce Release Readiness Live sessions. And you can find the recording at the bottom of the screen. It's also the page where you registered for today's platform broadcast, as well as previous Winter 18 Release Readiness Live broadcasts. So if you have to step away, or if you want to share this broadcast or rewatch parts of it, we've got some amazing demos coming. So you might want to go back and rewatch some of the demos, better understand what we're showing. You can definitely find those recordings here. So we're very lucky to be joined, as I mentioned, by our Salesforce product managers. And part of that means that we might be discussing roadmap and some future technologies. So it's really important that all of our Salesforce customers keep in mind our forward-looking statement. And in that, we ask that all of you make purchasing decisions based on Salesforce that are based on today's currently available technologies. So while we love talking about roadmap, it's always under safe harbor, and it definitely, all purchasing decisions should be made based on what's available today. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our awesome panel of product managers.
Awesome. So hi, I'm Eric Shi. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the UI enhancements coming to Lightning Experience in Winter 18, as well as some new features that you're going to see on list views and related lists.
And I'm Michael Gonzalez. I'm going to share some great new customization features with Lightning App Builder, including dynamic Lightning pages. So I've heard from a community. You want to learn more about it, so stay tuned for that.
Hello, I'm Josh Kaplan, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about Salesforce DX, the new Salesforce development experience.
So we're going to get started now. We're going to talk about platform features in Winter 18. And just before we get started, one more thing. We will be talking a lot about all of the amazing features coming to Lightning, to the UI, to the customization abilities. So this is a really important time to level up your skills on Lightning, to learn where those continued feature investments are going in the Salesforce UI and in our admin experience. So definitely just want to set the expectation that we're going to be talking a lot about Lightning today, and we're excited for all of you to learn more about the latest Lightning features. So let's start learning about our new UI experience in Lightning, Eric.
All right, thanks, Leanne. So in Winter 18, as some of you may know, there's going to be some major enhancements in terms of the general UI and Lightning experience. And we wanted to thank everyone who's provided feedback along the way. This has been a journey for all of us, and we listened to all of your feedback, and thank you so much for it. So as part of listening to all of your feedback, we heard a theme around the general UI and Lightning experience, feedback around the content not being as dense as people thought it should be, that it was feeling a little bit white and bland, washed out. So we really took this feedback to heart, and over the past 6 to 8 months, we launched a project across all of our R&D, really focusing on how we can improve the user experience in Lightning. And we targeted this in 4 key ways. So one, we wanted to increase the legibility of the information so it's easier to read what's on the page. At the same time, we wanted to improve the content density so that you could see more of that information on your list views, your related lists, your record pages, just across the app. So we believe we have some great enhancements coming there. And also, we introduced the concept of depth and layering. So you're going to see some of this in a demo in a few minutes. But essentially, you're going to hopefully see content pop out a little bit better. So when you're scanning the page, you're going to be able to focus different elements that you're working on without having your attention drawn to other places. And last, we wanted to enable branding within Lightning Experience. So you're going to see a little bit of our Salesforce Trailhead brand and theming with the Winter 18 release. We've really invested in Salesforce Trailhead, and I'm personally really excited about it. It represents individualism and empowerment, and it adds a little bit of fun to our app. So I hope everyone's really excited about this, and I'll show it in a second. So moving on, Winter 18 was an amazing release for list views, and we delivered so many features. Like the teams totally outdid themselves. And some of those features you love and know in Classic, we've brought over to Lightning Experience. For example, mass inline edit. You can now do that on list views. Amazing, right? Also, for those of you who work a lot and create list views, you can now clone list views as well as save list views as new list views with the Save As button. Not only that, we introduced some brand new Lightning-only features. So there's something we're calling Smart Column Widths, and this is an absolutely amazing feature that I think everyone's going to love. So essentially, when you're resizing your browser screen or just using your list view, if you haven't set user preferences, we're going to dynamically resize the columns so that more data fits on your screen, so you don't have to keep horizontally scrolling. I know that can be a little bit challenging on some of your computers with mouses or on Windows machines. So hopefully people are going to be really excited about the Smart Column Widths. And something that you've never seen in Classic before on list views is coming to Lightning Experience, which is text wrapping. So for those of you who have really long text area fields and you find yourself dragging those columns really large just to be able to see more information, well, you don't have to do like that anymore. You can drag it a little bit larger and then choose to wrap the text, and you're going to see a few rows of the information wrapped right there. So we're super excited for all of these features. And also, list views are going to be available in App Builder. So we know a lot of you admins out there, you've been asking for this. Well, it's coming in Winter 18. All right, so Related List Quick Links is a component that we're introducing in Winter 18, and this once again was because of all of your feedback. So we wanted to thank each and every one of you. So we heard a lot about the Related List card experience, how people felt that there was a lot of white space and people had to scroll a lot to see different related lists, that they had to press View All to see all the columns, and it was really hindering productivity. So we took this feedback to heart. We did a few rounds of research, and we're introducing this new component with Winter 18 called Related List Quick Links. And in this component, it's really similar to the hovers in Classic. You can essentially see all of your related lists in a single place, so you can easily just move between them with your mouse, so you don't have to scroll anymore just to see your related list data. And when you hover a related list, you're going to see all that information pop up right on your screen, and it's going to show all 10 columns. So no more are you going to have to press View All just to see all of your columns, and you're going to be able to perform all of your mass actions and actions. You can sort right from within the Quick Links hover panels. So we're super excited for this feature, and it's also fully accessible. So we know that the hovers in Classic weren't very accessible for some of our disabled or impaired users. Well, we made sure to tackle that with the new component. So super excited for this.
Awesome. These are such exciting features, especially for all of us admins out there that have end users where we want to help them be more productive and move them onto Lightning. And so now it's all the features they know and love in Classic List Views, but even more, right, in Lightning. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we've got a lot of feedback so far, very positive, and I'd love to just jump into a demo to show everyone what it looks like. Perfect. All right, let's do that. So first off, I wanted to show a few of the key pages to show what the theming changes and the branding changes with the Winter UI look like. So the first thing you might notice is that we have a light blue background on some of our key pages here, as you can see, and that there's a concept of cards now. So all the different elements on the page are now cards, and they have borders, and they have a little bit of shadow, which should add some depth to help really you focus on what you're looking at and be able to differentiate elements on the page. So hopefully this is an improvement for many people. Some of our initial research shows that people love it. So please keep the feedback coming around these changes. And at the top here, you're going to see a little bit of a topographical background. It's covered by most of the content on the page, and this is something that we wanted to balance, having a little bit of color, fun, and trailhead theme to the experience in Winter 18, but at the same time, we didn't want to disrupt your workflows and take focus away from the content of the page. So you're going to see this topographical background and the blue background on a lot of your key pages. So we're excited for this. If I go to a user page, so I'm just going to go to my profile here, you're going to see a little bit more of this trailhead theming and branding with the Winter 18 release. And this is more prominent on user and group pages. For example, this is the default background image if the users have not set their own profile background image. And of course, users can always update this to be their own. However, for those of you out of the box, you're going to see a little bit of this trailhead flavor, and we're hoping that it's going to add a little bit of fun and liven up the experience. So next up, let's take a look at opportunities list views. So on this page, once again, you're going to see that we have the topographical background here, a little bit of color, and the thing that I think a lot of people are going to love is that we really tightened up the spacing on our list views. So it's 30% more information that you're going to see on your screens, and it's on parity with how many rows of data you can see in Salesforce Classic. You can now see that much in Lightning Experience as well. So hopefully people are going to love this to reduce the scrolling and just improve the general white space. So super excited for that. And for admins out there, you might be wondering, hey, I'm not quite ready. I have a lot of custom components, and I wasn't prepared to get this background and theming changes. Like I designed some components. Some of the developers out there, I might have designed the components based on the white background. Well, if that is the case, there is a way for you to change the background colors back to white with the Winter 18 release. And the way to do that is you can just go into Setup here, in the Lightning Setup, in the gear icon. And once you go into Setup, you can search for, in the Quick Find box, I really like to use this feature. It really helps my productivity. You can search for themes and branding. So this is a brand new setup node in Lightning Experience Setup, really focusing on the theming and branding changes that we've unveiled in Winter 18. So right now, there is a single tool that you can do right now, which says hide background images in Lightning. So this is the control for those of you admins out there, in case it's not the right time for you to get the blue background and the topographical trailheady background image. You can hide background images just by pressing this button. So this is the page that you're going to go to actually in the future releases, and you're going to see it kind of lets the cat out of the bag that it says right here, these refinements are built in. So you're going to get these out of the box with Winter 18, but in a future release, we're going to be enabling custom theming and branding. So this will be the setup page where you're going to be able to take a lot more action as admins to customize your Salesforce experience to fit your company. So we're super excited about that. And one last note here is that don't worry, if you hide the background images, you're still going to get all of the other improvements that we made in terms of content density, font sizing, and depth. So you can turn this off without losing any of that. Awesome. So I'm just going to go back here and show some of the features we're talking about on our list views. So the first thing, I'm just going to go to a list view here, and I'm just going to go to my Opportunities Wand list view. And the first thing you might notice here is that I've resized the columns here as a user because I wanted to see more information for some columns. So you can see that I have to scroll a little bit horizontally to see my columns. As a user who hasn't done that, you're going to get smart column widths automatically. But for those of you who have already set your user preferences, there is a way to get smart column widths, and it's right in this gear icon right here in your list view settings control. You can press the list view setting control, and at the bottom there's a new node called Reset Column Widths. And what this is going to do is, if I just press it here, so I'm going to zoom out so everyone can see, I'm going to press it, and just like that, it intelligently resizes my columns based on the data I have. And this is relevant whether you have 1, 2, or you have all 15 columns on list views. This is a super awesome feature, and if you drag your browser size a little bit smaller, it's going to resize right with you. So you don't lose that information. You're not going to have to horizontally scroll unnecessarily. So we're super excited. We recommend that everyone takes a look at this, and then you can use it as a starting point to do customizations. The other feature that is new to Lightning Experience, and you're going to see this there's a new drop-down arrow here on all of your columns. And if you press it, you can see you have an option between wrapping text and clipping, also known as truncating your text. So the default is that text is going to truncate, and this is true for both list views and related lists in Lightning Experience. But if you have text area fields that are really long, for example, and you don't want your columns to be too long, but you do want to see that information, well, you can just change the setting to wrap text. And I don't have any text areas here, but I'm just going to showcase right here. I'm going to drag the column a little bit shorter, and you're going to see that it's wrapping your text. So we're really excited about this feature, and this is a user setting, so users, feel free to change this however you want to your heart's content. Make the list views right for your workflows. And you can change it back to clip text if you want. So for those of you, if you're worried at all about, I have really long text areas and it's going to wrap infinitely, you don't have to worry about it. You know, our awesome product team, one of my colleagues, Jeff Davis, he thought a lot about how to make this feature super awesome. And it'll only wrap a few lines. So you're going to see it's a balance between like seeing more information, but not taking up too much space. So super excited for that. The other feature that we're bringing to Lightning Experience that many of you probably love in Salesforce Classic is mass inline edit. So what you can do, what that means is, for those of you who aren't familiar, you can check a bunch of rows in your list views and you can click on something. I'm going to change the close date for these opportunities, and I'm just going to change it to sometime this year. Great, so I'm going to change the close date to September 29th of 2017. And right here, you're going to see there's a new checkbox now that says Update 5 Selected Items. So if you click that, you're going to see that those items that you're about to change are actually highlighted in blue. So this is a nice gesture to let you know that this is what you're about to update. And if I press Apply, it's going to actually make those changes, and I can save them at the bottom here. And just like that, I've just made a change across multiple records in a list view. I've just mass inline edited. So we're super excited for this feature, and I hope people are going to use this a lot and improve your productivity. So you can also now clone list views. If you go into the settings gear right here, this is where you can access a lot of the core list view functionality. We do get questions around what's the way to create list views, edit list view criteria in Lightning Experience. Well, if in doubt, go to this setup button or this settings button. And you can see here you have new, and clone is a new option. You can edit your list view criteria. So I'm just going to clone my list view now. And in the clone view, I'm just going to change, I'm going to type opportunities 1 version 2. And you can choose whether or not this is a private list view or a public list view. I'm going to make this a public list view, and I'm going to press Save. So once I do that, I've just cloned that list view, and you can see you can also update your criteria on the right-hand side. So once you clone it, the criteria on the right-hand side, this is where you can add your filters. And if I choose to add a filter, so I'm just going to add a filter that says the account name, I want to limit it to all my Data Mart accounts. So I'm going to say starts with Data Mart. And I'm going to press Done. And you can now see there's a Save As button here, right here. So you don't have to save or create a new list view like that. You can just press Save As, and you can just say it's a Data Mart Opportunities 1. So this is a really cool feature. People probably use this a lot in Classic, but we're bringing it to Lightning Experience. So super excited for that. The last thing I wanted to show was to take a look at that related list quick links component that I mentioned. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to use this shortcuts menu, and I'm going to go to an account. And this is a default account, and I'm just going to go customize it right now. So for those of you who are familiar, we have an awesome tool called the Lightning App Builder, which Mike is going to talk about in a few minutes. But I'm just going to briefly go in there because that's how you customize these pages. So you can access it quickly via this setup gear icon in the top right and by pressing Edit Page. So once I'm in this page, on the left-hand side, there's a new component here called Related List Quick Links. And I'm just going to drag that onto my page here. And I've dragged it onto a page. I'm getting a live preview. And this is super awesome. It's a new component, and we actually recommend that everyone start migrating to this component. We're going to build a lot of enhancements into this component as opposed to some of the older components such as related lists. So super excited for this, and let's just say let's add it to the page. So I'm going to save the page, and I'm going to go back. And just like that, we're going to see this component show up. And the one thing to call out here to stress is that admins, you're going to have to add this component to the page with Winner 18. It's not going to come out of the box. And for users out there, if you're excited about what you see, please tell your admins to add it to the page so that you can get some of this amazing functionality. So the first thing to note here is that you see all your related lists as mentioned. And if I just hover my contacts related list, you're going to see that I'm seeing all of my 10 columns right here. So I don't have to press view all. And I can select a bunch of records. I can perform some mass actions if I want. For example, I could add to campaign. I'm not going to do that right now, but just letting you know that this is a fully functional related list right from within this hover. And for example, I'm done looking at my contacts. I want to look at opportunities. Just like that, you move your mouse a few pixels, and you're going to be able to see this information all really, really fast. And one thing to call out here is that it's not going to take up a lot of your page if you have 40, 50 related lists for some of the complex orgs out there. We show 2 rows of related lists when across the full width, and everything else is behind the show all. So you can see here, I have show all, I have 15 related lists, and I can press show all to see the remainder. So this is true whether you have 15, 20, 30. The more you have, you can all see it with the show all button. And the last thing I wanted to call out with this component is that it is customizable by users. So we have a little info tooltip here, which is informing our users. This is how you can customize it. So you can go to your personal settings, you can search for display and layout, and you can customize your pages just like that. So this is a really good way to, once again, empower yourself to create the workflow, create the page and experience that helps you and what you use the most. I'm going to go into the top right here. So this is how you access your user settings for those of you who aren't familiar. You go into your avatar and you press settings. And this brings you to your user settings. And in here, you can search for customize my pages. And you can press this. And right in here, this is actually it's a feature that's existed before, but people may or may not know about it. What I can do here is I'm going to try and customize my account related list. So I'm going to search for account here. And I'm going to press customize. And right here, you're just seeing the related list that we were just seeing on the page in the default order. And let's say I want my opportunities to go before my contacts. So I'm just going to do that. And let's say that I don't use notes and attachments. My company has actually migrated to use files in Lightning Experience. I can just move that notes and attachments related list to the right or to the left to make it not show up for me as a user. And I'm going to press save. So once I've saved these changes, I'm going to go back to an account. So I can go back here. I'm going to go back to that same account. And I'm just going to refresh the page to make sure my user settings have been applied. And what you're going to see here is those changes have just been reflected. So right here, you can see that opportunities is your first related list. Contacts is your second related list, just like we customized. And you might notice that there's no more show all link. That's because we removed the related list. So I only have 2 rows of related lists now. And that notes and attachment related list is not showing up. So we're super excited for this feature. We recommend that admins, you start taking a look at this. If you have any questions around best practices in terms of which related list to use, because we know we are introducing new components all the time, we recommend using the quick links component as well as the related list single component to really configure your pages, because that way you can put single related lists within different tabs. So we found a lot of customers like doing that, and then with this new component, we think it's going to be a game changer. Like, we're using it internally. Some of the feedback from sandboxes has been that people love it either across the page or in the sidebar. So take a look. We're super excited, and hopefully everyone likes some of the general UI enhancements made across our pages. So please keep the feedback coming. That's how we make our product better.
Awesome. Well, that was an awesome demo with a ton of features. And it's exciting for everyone, especially with end users that they're moving to Lightning, to be able to take advantage of not only all the existing Lightning list view features, like list view charts, I know are amazing, but then bringing in all of these additional enhancements to list views really makes it this like fully functional, efficient workspace for our end users that work with lots of records at once. And It's very exciting. So I know that also our audience is excited. I've been seeing some of the tweets coming in, but let's hear some of the questions. Alna?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we got some questions and some shout outs. And I think what's really important takeaway from this is that Salesforce is listening to your feedback. So, give your feedback in the community or whatever channel you have to talk to us and let us know what works for you, what doesn't, what you'd like to see, because our product managers are always listening. And this, I think, shows that. And I think that appreciation is coming through as well from Erica and Carl. They're loving the text wrapping. And lots of basically list views. They're just so important to everybody's day-to-day. So thank you so much for putting so much effort into that. Kimberly is asking, what about related list quick links? Are they available in the console? So I'm not sure if that's a console question or a general list question.
I think was it Kimberly?
Yeah.
That was a great question. And yes, related list quick links are available in standard Lightning apps as well as console Lightning apps. So, and as admins, you can actually put it anywhere on the page. So it works whether you're trying to put it in a sidebar, across the header region, in a main content. It works anywhere that you can configure it in a Lightning App Builder. So.
Yeah, Carl says, I've spent so much time switching back to Classic to clone list views. Now I don't have to do that anymore. Thank you.
Awesome.
He says. And then Trent is saying this may be the catalyst that helps them move to Lightning. So that's something we like to hear. And then, of course, folks are saying they love the new background and the ability to disable it, but they'd really like to put in their own image. So if you could speak to, if that's coming, when that's coming.
Oh, definitely. So as you might have seen in the setup, we kind of gave it away, but being able to add your own custom theming and branding is something that we're targeting for the spring 18 release. So a few months away, it's the next step.
Yeah, that's coming in January, so it's around the corner. And then there's a question from Divya about resetting column widths. She says it's disabled for her, and she's wondering if there's something that you need to do in the settings to make that light up.
Really good question. So this actually confused me at first when I saw this. So the reason it's disabled is actually because the smart widths are already there. So if you haven't personalized, if you haven't dragged and resized the columns as a user, we're not going to have those personal settings. So you actually get the smart column widths automatically in that case. So if you drag a column manually, you're going to see that the button becomes enabled, and then you can reset it to the default. So out of the box, it is disabled because you're actually already getting it.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm just wondering about, once you get that list view just how you want it with the wrapping and the column widths, is it sticky? Like if you leave that related list and then go back, list view, and then you go back again, will it remember your choices?
Yes, it will. So this is one of the things, and it remembers it for your recently viewed list view as well as your related lists. So these were some of the feedbacks we've heard. Recently viewed list view didn't have sticky column widths. Well, with the Winter 18 release, not only are you going to get all this amazing functionality, it's going to be sticky. So any changes you make are going to be reflected and remembered, not only on list views, but also on that recently viewed list that everyone loves.
Another common question we've been getting in the community on list views is multiple record types, changing the owner when you're mass editing, and then when you have filter logic, that seems to be, a limitation for inline edit. So if you could speak to those as well, that would be great, just real quick.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, this is a long-standing thing that we've been working on. Currently, the experience is still the same. So if you wanted to inline edit, you need to make sure that you add a filter criteria that limits that list view to a single record type. It is on our roadmap. We're actually thinking about how we can enable that so that you can have multiple record types and be able to mass inline edit. So we're working on it. There's no target release yet.
Okay, thanks. Now, there's a great question from Rick. So just to clarify, are these changes Lightning only, or are some of them also available in Classic?
So all of the changes that I've discussed today are actually Lightning only. So we're investing a lot in Lightning, and we're really excited about it. And part of it means, unfortunately, not being able to build certain functionality twice in Lightning and Classic. So some of the things we talked about with text wrapping, relay list quick links, actually everything I've mentioned is Lightning only.
Gotcha. All right, and then let's see, Marty was asking, can I change those column headings?
So
I guess if you, as opposed to the field name, let's say you want to give it a custom column name.
currently, no. So the columns are going to continue being the field names. If this is something you're interested in, it'd be great to create an idea exchange. I personally haven't heard this, so it's not something that I know to be on our roadmap, but it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, I know there's a little trick you can do in reports where you can create a bucket field in order to create a custom column name in a report, but there's not really a comparable thing that you can do in View. So it's a good question.
It's a good question, yeah. I think the only thing I can think of would be a formula field if you're an admin. I'm not sure if that's the right path, but if for any reason the default label really isn't right for you, you could try that.
Now, for folks who have some vision challenges and perhaps blue text may be a little hard for them to see, are you considering changing the color of the text or making it possible to customize that?
So I think that's really good feedback, and I would actually have to follow up with the design team. I know there's certain things that we want to allow you to customize. I'm not 100% sure if to what layer we're going to allow, and it would be great to get more details about the blue text because most of our text is actually gray and black. I believe, I'm assuming you might be asking about the link text. So I think that's really good feedback, and we'd love, I'll pass it on to the design team to make sure we can make something happen there for those of us who might be unable to see blue as much, I know.
Yeah, that one was for Phil, and he did post the question in the community, so
Great.
I'll make sure you can see his post, and then you can follow up with him.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks. All right, Leanne, what do you have
Awesome.
next?
Yeah, so let's continue on. And one last thing that I found kind of an Easter egg a little bit about the list view changes is they come through with Lightning Search as well. So
Yes.
if you're searching, and like I know I spend a lot of time in search in Salesforce, and it remembers my column widths and if I'm, for account search or something. And so that's an awesome, kind of additional way to use those features too for end users that use search a lot. So I know there's lots more to talk about. Thank you very much, Eric. And there's lots more to talk about with how we can customize our Lightning experience. So
Yes.
I'd love to kick it off to you, Mike.
Great, thank you. I love seeing that app builder demo. And we're going to have more of that. So I'm going to talk to you about App Builder and some of the great new customization features that we have included in this release. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the App Builder, the App Builder is really your central place in Lightning to be able to customize the look and feel of pages. So you can do a lot more than what you could do in Classic, where it's really more about the page layout and the fields in the page. The App Builder is more about the components and the overall look and feel on the page itself. So it does more than just the record details and the related lists. And you do it all with points and clicks, so there's no code required. That hurdle of having to get a developer to help you out, we've done our best to remove it as best as possible. Some of the things you can do with the App Builder is you can create your own home page. You can create a custom record page or even a custom app page as well. And that app page can actually be used across Lightning Experience and Salesforce One. And we've integrated the App Exchange into the App Builder itself. So what that lets you do is that lets you actually go and browse for new components. So if there are things that we don't provide out of the box that you want to go and search for, you've got a seamless place, seamless experience to go and find that stuff. And the other thing I want to mention is that App Builder has been growing. We've added a lot of functionality to it. I actually just found out the other day, this is actually our 10th release of App Builder. So we've had it out there for 10 releases.
Wow.
It's a huge milestone
awesome.
for us. Yeah, so we're pretty happy about it. A couple of the things that we're going to dig into today, and I've gotten a lot of questions about it so far. I've had a few chances to demo it in previous release Readiness Lives and out on the Lightning Now tour, is a dynamic Lightning Pages feature. So this lets admins go in without any code, create dynamic experiences for end users. So they can show and hide components as a user goes in and interacts with a record. It's pretty powerful, really cool, no code required. So we try to make it as simple as possible. It works with all types of components. It works with custom components, with ISV components. It works with the standard components. And there's no code requirements for either admins or component developers. So if you have a component that you've already built and it's been deployed, or you want to make it available for Lightning and you want your user to take advantage of this feature, you don't have to worry about adding a line of code to your component. It's all controlled within the App Builder and the page itself. And another great feature is custom page templates. So this is letting you build your own template, and this is more of a developer-centric feature, but our admins are the ones that are actually going to control and deploy this. But this lets our developers go and build custom page templates, so they can create custom experiences beyond the out-of-the-box 8 or so templates we provide. And this lets them define their own layout. They can style it. They can add JavaScript to add some more functionality. So one example that I'll show you today is a custom template where you can actually collapse the regions in there. That just a little bit of JavaScript got in there to help us out. Yeah,
That's great.
I've been hearing a lot of feedback on that one. People really want us to show them how to do that, and it really extends the functionality of Lightning. And then the other cool thing that I want to mention too is with this custom template or template strategy as a whole, we've actually made with information available to our component developers. So what this lets you know, what this will let your component know is whether or not it's in a wide region or it's in a narrow region. So if it's in a wide region, you can have the component adapt and render one way. If it's in a narrow region with a little bit less space, you can actually have it adapt to that, maybe even change up the behavior for a narrow space, if that makes sense. So it's all pretty cool stuff. So what I've got here is I've got a service console here. So let's go in and let's make some customizations for a service-centric type of use case. This is the home page, and we love the home page, but you can see here it doesn't have a whole lot of information on it. This home page is really designed for our sales use case for out-of-the-box users. So what I'm going to do is just give you a quick intro to App Builder and some great new components that we have that'll make this home page experience way better for these users. So I'm going to go in to this cog, and like Eric showed you, we actually have the edit page capability. And that's available on home pages or any page that you can customize with the App Builder. It'll have edit page there in that setup cog. And you can see I've got these components that are rendered right here in the center. So for those of you that aren't familiar, the App Builder, it's what we call a WYSIWYG tool. What you see is what you get. We try to take all the guesswork out of exactly what you are designing, so we don't have any kind of weird placeholders. We try to render real information as best as possible here, so you know exactly what your end users are going to see. And what I'll do is I'll just go through and I'll just show you how easy it is to make changes. So right here on the canvas, it highlights. I can click this X here. I can actually start clearing out components. If I make a mistake, we have undo and redo capabilities. So you have the ability to go back and make fixes really easily. And you can actually drag and drop existing components on the page and rearrange them. So I can take this recent records one, drag and drop it over here, and you can see I put it in that column. It looks good. It's adapted to its size. Let me clear out a bunch of other components here, and let's make a page that's good for our service users that are going to access the service console. So the first thing I want to do is I actually want to take this brand new list view component. So I'm taking components here from the left side, and you can see I've got categories of standard components. I have custom components, custom managed components, which are ones from our App Exchange. I've even got a link to the App Exchange down at the bottom, so if there are more components that I want to go and browse for, I can click that, open it up, and like I mentioned earlier, there's a fully seamless integrated experience. I can go through, I can browse one, and as I browse and drill in, I can see what that component looks like. So it's just if you've gone through and you've searched for apps or for components on the App Exchange and the standalone App Exchange itself, all this is just bringing that into the App Builder in an experience that makes sense. So let's add our first new component here. Let's add the list view. So the list view is a new component. Eric had mentioned it, so that we have a brand new list view component. It's just bringing list views into different pages. So for example, here in the home page now I can have a list view that mirrors exactly what I see when I click a tab. So since this is a service use case, let's go in. And right here on the right side, these are the page properties. So the page properties are going to change per component. This is where you're going to customize the various options for the component itself. So it can go in and it can just pass different information into it. So here for this list view component, I'm going to hit case. Maybe I want this just to be my recent cases. Let me go ahead and zoom out. And you can see as I go through and I start making those property edits, that component re-renders and it brings in the fresh information. So now I've got case, recently viewed cases. I can even increase the number of records for this, which is pretty cool. And you can see everything just loads right away. That's all live data. That's exactly as I'm going to see it there in the actual runtime when I actually publish it. And another great new component, dashboards. So we've heard a lot of feedback on this and really wanted to get a dashboard component standardized and available as soon as possible. So we've got it here in the Winter 18 release. We're really happy with it. This is one of those gaps that we've had with the Classic experience where you can easily add a dashboard to your Salesforce Classic homepage. Now we've closed that gap. We're making dashboards available here in the App Builder and being able to drag and drop it here onto the page. So you can see I've got my dashboard. This is the same dashboard that was configured within the dashboards tab. You know, if you're an admin, you go through and you can see all my data is available to me there. So it's pretty great. We're really happy about that. And then maybe I'll add another component here, just another custom component that we've created, just so you can see how custom components play well with all the standard ones here. So now I've got a completely different view of this page. I just simply have to hit save. And then I get a few options here. We like to walk you through the different options that you have in order to save and activate a page. So I'm going to click through, hit activate, and I've got two options for home pages. I can either make it the default home page, which is the default that everyone's going to see, or I can assign to specific profiles. I'll just show you what that looks like. By profiles, it will just show you all the different profiles that are available in the org, both custom and standard ones. So if you had profiles set up for your service users and you want only this homepage to only appear for them, that's how you would go through and control it. Here I'm just going to make it the default. I get a chance to confirm that. I'll hit activate. Get a nice message there that says activation successful. And I'll hit back. And you can see now I've got that entirely brand new homepage, totally custom, haven't had to touch a line of code in order to create it. And now it's got relevant information, important information for my Service Console users, right? So I've got recently viewed cases, I've got this dashboard that's been created for them, so been able to extend and make this console experience that much better for them. The next thing I'm going to highlight, so I'm going to jump into the brand new features that are App Builder specific. So the things around dynamic pages and the custom templates. So if I go through and I click a record here, you can see I got this contact here. Let me go back and go back to the home page, and what I want to do is actually go into the case. You can see this is our standard case page. So this is what users get in the console. This is the out-of-the-box case page. But maybe I've got some requirements where I want to add a custom template to it because my custom template's got some new functionality like being able to collapse regions. It has some styling that matches some of the theming and the branding that I want to have in my org. Plus, I want to add maybe a component on this page to be able to let my service agents know when a contact is a VIP. So the way I'm going to do that is let me close this out. And let me go into the App Builder setup page. So if you open up the App Builder setup page, you get a list of all the pages that exist there. And I'm going to hit new. So this is the flow that you need to go through in order to use a new template, a new custom template for your Lightning page. So you go through the App Builder wizard. We have app page, home page, and record page options. Even email application pane is another one if you have that feature enabled in your org. I'm going to hit record page and next. And let's just call this the Release Readiness Live case page. And let's pick the object. So it's a pretty simple flow. We just name the page, pick the object you want the record page to point to, which is case. And now I've got several options here for the template. So as I mentioned, we have 8 out-of-the-box templates here for record pages. I've also got this new section. We've got this magic layout. This is a magic layout custom template that we've got that we're going to use here. We've also got the ability to clone the Salesforce default pages, so you can always use that option as well. And so what this is going to do is this is going to open up the App Builder. It's going to open up a record page, and you see everything's blank. So I'm starting from a blank point, but it's using the custom template that I've created and that I've added to this org. And it's got the things that are custom about this template. It's got 2 sections up above that that the developer can go through and actually define how wide, how tall those sections are. And then it can also add the styling. So you see the styling I have in the background here. It looks a little bit different from the new theme that we have added to Lightning. So I go through and just start customizing this page. I'm going to just add components, and it's just as simple as it was before. Just drag and drop stuff onto the page. I'll take this highlights panel, I'll make that my header, and you can see the properties start to update. I have a section here. We've got it coded to say case history, so that's what I want to dump a case history component on here. The way I'm going to get there is I'm going to dump this related list. I'm going to drag and drop it over. And you can see related list. I'm going to update the properties to say give me the case history. And then I've got case history in its own section up above. So, you can imagine as you get feedback from your end users that are going in as to where they want to see components on the page and where they prefer them to lay out. Like, this is a great combination of using a custom template and using the App Builder to make these updates pretty easily. So let's add a few more components to the page. I'll add this record detail right here in the center. Maybe I'll add a related list over here. Now you can see this related list has everything loaded up on there. Maybe that's too big. Maybe I want the related list quick links. So we got a great question when Eric was demoing it, whether or not quick links are going to be supported in the console. And there you go. I've added it here to my page. Maybe we'll add another one, just a related record, just to show you how easy it is to add these things and update and just make sure we have the right information. So I want to use this case. Maybe the update action here is just to say update case. And once again, I can just move stuff around. So what if we have a component on the page that we only want to show up for certain scenarios? So that's where the new dynamic pages feature comes into play. And so what that lets me do, so I've got a custom component here, and I'm going to drag it and drop it somewhere here on the page. I'll add it right here, this VIP component. So what this component is going to tell me is this is going to say, this is going to tell my service users, hey, when you're on this case, this is a VIP customer. We're going to just let them be aware via this component that, hey, this is a VIP. Give them the extra special red carpet treatment. I've added it here. Now, today, if you add a component to a page, it's going to show up on every page. But in the Winter 18 release, what we have is we have this component visibility option. So as I've gone through and I've clicked through the components, you see that the properties get updated. This component here has the set component visibility option. Actually, they all do. So I'll show that just in a moment for the other components. But what that is doing is that's letting me determine when to show and when to hide this component. So very simple. I click that filter. And let's say that I want this filter to be based off of a field that I have in that record, and the field is called VIP. I just simply go into there. I click this drop down. I can scroll down, or I can even type ahead to find VIP customer. So now I've got a rule with this field that's based off of this field to say when VIP customer is equal to true, we're basically saying show that component. And you can see that this component now has this rule. We even have a little icon here, so you know as you go through your pages and you've got components with rules on them that just have a little bit of icon to let you know that it's there. And here it is, just a really simple rule, but yet still pretty powerful. So this is my first dynamic experience that I've created here as an admin. I think this is looking pretty good. And like I was mentioning before, this is available on all components. So set component visibility is available for all the different components on the page. So let's go ahead and hit save. And let's go through our record page activation. So I've got several options here. They're a little bit different from the home page just because they're options that are specific and they make sense for a record page scenario. So the first one I have is a org default, and that's just saying, hey, you know what, for case, make this the org default. So any app that uses the case object will be able to see this. I have the app default. So now here's where I can specify that I want this particular case page and the layout that I've created for it to only be available for a certain app. And then I have app record type and profile. So if you use record types and profiles heavily in your org, this is a way to be able to assign specific pages to to those types of combinations. So you can have really detailed, distinct, tailored experiences. For case partner record type and profile success manager, you can have a specific app record type profile combination for that. So you can get to be very granular. So I'll hit app default, and what we want to do is we want to make this the default for this service app. There's one that I have loaded up here. Simply hit save. Activation settings are changed, so it's pretty easy to go through and hit save and hit activate for these things. When you hit activate, they get pushed out immediately here in the for your end users. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my home page, and I'm going to click through this case. And I should see this. Let's go ahead and just refresh. Here we go. Now I've got my updated case page layout. So you can see before it was showing the original one. Now that I've gone through and activated it, I've got the new one here. And here is our custom template. So you can see it was quite different. The background was a bit different. It's got new functionality in here. So you can go through, you can collapse regions on this one because that's what my developer coded for me in this particular template. So you can add that type of functionality. You can, we've had demos where we've collapsed regions up on top or even on the side. So it's been one of the features that we've gotten good feedback on. So this is a path in order to make that collapsible region happen within your org. And the nice part about it is if I'm working through a case and I just want to get to that details, I see that this customer here is a VIP, so pretty important. We want to make sure we take good care of them. We got VIP customer checked here. So we know that that component is supposed to show up. And let's see what happens if we go to another customer here. Let's go to this one. We'll switch it up. And we'll see that component's not here anymore. So that components, we drop it based on that visibility rule that we set up with the dynamic pages feature. We know not to show that component. Now the nice part about that feature is that as you go through and you work through a record, you make updates to it that changes up the data, we'll show and hide components. You won't have to go through and do page reloads. It'll all be done dynamically and all in a pretty much seamless experience. So it's pretty nice. And that's all of our new functionality that we have for the app builder. So like I said, 10th release, it's a huge release for us. I think we've got a lot of great new features that we have made available here, and would love to hear feedback on there. So please get your hands on it as soon as possible and let us know how we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. It's so exciting to see the path that App Builder has taken, and it keeps giving admins and declarative developers more and more power to customize pages for their users, and also to work with their developers to design cool components and expose them differently, right, with dynamic pages. So super exciting for everyone who works with, customizing experiences for our end users.
Being able to let them do these types of things with the UI, where they had to have a developer do it beforehand, is just a big productivity boost. So it lets them work with developers to work on different types of problems and solve different areas of their app that they need to go out there and fix and update and make good enhancements for their end users. Yeah.
So I know our community is excited about this as well. Elna, do we have any questions or feedback about the App Builder updates?
Yes, there's definitely some questions and some feedback, and I have to say that the possibilities are endless with this. So your creativity is the only limit for this. So try it out and let us know your use cases. Share them in the community. We'd love to hear about them. So Rick is saying on the component visibility filters, he says he's glad to see property-driven show hide settings in Salesforce. So that's a
great
round of applause there.
Yes.
And Powell is very thankful for the dashboard component, and also wants to know if you can put it on all Lightning pages built in App Builder, or is there a limitation where you can place those?
So you can put it on the home pages and the app pages that you can build with the App Builder today, but not on the record pages. So I'll have to double check to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case with it. And the other thing is that they only render within the wider regions as of this release, and in a future release we'll work on a fix to or an improvement to make it work great within the narrow regions.
Great. And Carol noticed that you were demoing customizing a console page, so she just wants to know, can you customize other pages the same way, like just an account page or maybe a custom object?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So the standard objects, I would say that the really important ones that have a lot of usage are fully supported. I think we have them listed in a help article. If you go and search for that in the App Builder help area. Custom objects are fully supported too, and it works both for the console and it also works for just the standard navigation too. So all fully customizable.
And can you just talk a little bit more about the custom templates? Do they need to be created by developers, or can they be created by a declarative admin? And if it's a developer thing, is there a way for developers to share those custom templates with other customers, perhaps in different orgs?
So it's a great question. So here's the secret. So custom templates are really Lightning components. And so in order to build them, you actually are going to have to go in and write a bit of code in order to build out a template. So we don't have a declarative way of building out a template, at least not yet. So it's something we're thinking about for future releases. So we'll require developers, and developers can go and they can build it and just deploy it just like any other Lightning component. They can deploy it directly to an org. They can include it within a package on the App Exchange as well. So just all the same flexibility and all the goodness that comes with being able to package up and share components also applies to this custom template feature.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about the home page, because everybody's really interested in that normally. And so a couple of questions on the home page. First is, can you create a custom template for the home page? And the second one is, does the dynamic feature work with home pages?
Oh, yeah. So you can create a custom template for home pages, for record pages, or for app pages. So pretty much any Lightning page you can customize with the App Builder, you can create a template for that page type. The dynamic pages feature will only work with record pages in the Winter 18 release, and it works with record pages and it works with the data on those record pages. So it's basically building rules based off of the data that is captured within the fields of those record pages. In the future, what we're working on for the spring release is actually extending that capability to be able to pass more context into this into these visibility rules. So imagine being able to create a rule based off of profiles, for example, which would then unlock that functionality for the homepage as well. So we're working on it. We've got a pretty robust roadmap for it, and we want to continue hearing feedback about the different types of use cases you want for showing and hiding stuff. So we make sure that we prioritize and build them the right way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's really exciting to hear about everything that's coming for our end users, everything that's coming for our admins that are customizing, and also we've got some exciting developments in how we can build and develop apps and deploy apps through our lifecycle. So I'd love to hear from you, Josh, about what's coming next for our admins and developers with Salesforce DX.
Right. Thanks, Leanne. Tough act to follow, you guys. Some amazing stuff. We have magically resizing columns, magic layouts. I hope I have some magic that I can share that it equals this. Salesforce development experience, Salesforce DX. And you're probably out there thinking to yourself, Josh, experience doesn't start with an X. I know, X's are cool. We like the X, but developers, maybe you're not all developers. I want to make sure you know that you are all developers. You just may use different tools to get the job done, but everyone who's building things and building functionality and page layouts and logic into their applications, you're developers. Salesforce DX is for you. It is for everyone who's trying to build things together as a team and to deliver them to their users on the platform. I started my time here at Salesforce in services, so I've been out in the field working with customers, building applications, and I know firsthand the power of the platform. That's stuff you've seen here today and everything is built on top of. I also know firsthand some of the quirks and the inconsistencies and difficulties involved in getting that functionality from your mind into your users' hands. And I'm, for that reason, extremely excited about Salesforce DX. This represents a process that's gone on for a couple years now and really rebuilding the way that people are going to build applications on the platform. Yeah, Salesforce DX is not a product, it's a project. And the project's been going on for a while. We first thought to ourselves, what is it we like about our existing infrastructure? What is it that we would want to keep? What is it we want to change and make it better? And what is it we want to rip out and completely replace with something brand new? And that was the onus of this project, the mandate we were given, so we could make something like if we were to start from scratch. So you're going to see a sea change in the end of this with how you build and deliver applications on the platform. It's not done. The process is not over. We are just releasing our generally available functionality with the Winter 18 release. That's what I'm going to be talking about mostly and showing you today. But know that there's a lot more coming, and I'll talk a bit about that. But we are not done. This is just the first tranche of stuff that you're going to get to make your lives better when you're trying to build functionality for your end users. So the big change you see here on this slide, so we have lots of bubbles here on the outside and then one right in the middle, representing all the different teams that have been working on Salesforce DX. But the big change is the one right there in the middle. The VCS, version control system, is the source of truth. Today, the org itself is your application. It's the only place that your logic is truly represented and stored and maintained. There are people who use source control and you have sandbox copies, but that org is special. That org is its own unique snowflake that has certain qualities that you just aren't able to replicate elsewhere. And that's unusual. That's not how most development is done. Most development is done where the application is the logic, it's the pages, it's the metadata behind the layouts that you've seen in the Lightning App Builder. That's your application. And so we're switching to that more normal pattern, the way that things are done across the rest of the development world, where the source control, that application is your source of truth. So that's a big shift. It doesn't mean that we're going to go away from a lot of things we've done and the tools we use today, but it is going to be a new way to think about what your application really is. So one big change that's going to come with that is we're going to have a new environment type, which is called a Scratch org. You see that over there on the right. Scratch orgs are going to be a little bit like sandboxes, if you're accustomed to using sandboxes. But one key difference is they're empty. You build them from scratch, hence the name. Scratch orgs are going to be for one developer to work on, or perhaps a couple to collaborate together, and for a single task, for building a new page layout, for adding a workflow rule, for fixing a bug in an Apex trigger. And then when you're done with that Scratch org, we're going to discard it. We're going to eliminate it and let you build a brand new one for your next task. So instead of a sandbox, which you run for a year or more on end, where you're going through constant releases and have to kind of keep track of what is it that I changed? What was I doing in here 2 days ago? Do I need that for the thing I'm doing today? These are purpose-built for a single task to help you keep focused on the thing that it is you're trying to build. So Scratch orgs are going to be your new environment for building and making changes to your application itself. On top of that, you'll see also on the right one other product of ours, IDEs. We've built a brand new extension to Visual Studio Code, which I will show you in a bit here. It's an IDE tool that's more modern than some of the ones we've had in the past, and it showcases how developers are going to be able to build in this modern system. And all of that is built on top of the box you see on the top right there, which is the CLI, the Command Line Interface. And I'm going to jump right into that in a moment and explain to you how it is that we've taken all the API functionality and brought it to the developer and brought it to their computer and brought it local for them to work. So they're not constantly working across the internet while they're doing the development, but have everything local to their machine where they can do the work they need to do. As we move forward, we're going to see on the left-hand side packaging. Packaging is going to be a new way for you to encapsulate the development you're working on a single project. Which workflow rules, which pages, which custom objects belong to your stream of work, as opposed to this happy soup of lots of different components that cross different applications that are hard to keep straight in your mind. So packaging will let you compartmentalize the work you're doing and then deliver that with new updated versions, version 1.2, 1.3, and you can see who changed what, when it was changed, and keep track of the application as it progresses in time. Sandboxes are not going away, as I mentioned before. They still have a lot of value. Everyone has a login there. If you want to do user testing, if you want to do performance testing, there's still going to be lots of use cases for them within the development lifecycle. And so sandboxes are still going to be a critical part of how you are going to be built on the platform. The last two bits at the bottom, continuous integration and continuous delivery, are the automation of all of this. So instead of relying on developers to run tests, because developers are sneaky and they like to just do stuff and not necessarily do what they're supposed to do, this makes sure we always are running tests. Every time someone tries to make a change, we're going to run things to make sure no one broke existing functionality, so that when you do change a workflow rule or you do change an Apex trigger, the things that have worked in the past are not going to suddenly change without you knowing it. And continuous delivery will incorporate packaging to, once the tests are successful, move that package up from environment to environment so it can be delivered consistently and reliably to your end users. So that's a lot. I know that's a lot there. This, like I said, is not a product. This is a project that's across multiple teams, and we are releasing the generally available functionality to you with the Winter 18 release. And without any further ado, I'm going to jump into a bit of a demo to show you how all of this works. Here we first start on GitHub. If you're not familiar with GitHub, this is a web interface that shows you a version control system that stores all of my application content. It's got classes and tests and some other files. All of this stuff together, when I deploy it into any org, will be my application. Doesn't matter if I deploy it into my production org, or into a Scratch org, or into a Sandbox org, or into someone's DE org. This is the application, all of it. It's all here, and it's all stored on the web in an environment where I can collaborate with my team, track who's made what changes, and make sure that we're working together in a unified way. When I interact with that, I'm going to be working with things locally on my machine. I've cloned this over to my machine, and now I've got a command line interface. So the terminal editor, this isn't as scary as it might sound. Let me jump in and show you what we've got here. So if I just do, I can show you a list of all the commands and show you all the commands we put into our force topic. You'll notice I've got Apex, I've got metadata API, I've got schema, I've got source. What we've done is we've taken all of the variety of APIs that you have to work with in building on our platform, and taken out only the methods you really need from those APIs. We've consolidated them all into a single application interface here on your computer. So if you need to push metadata, you have a metadata API method. If you want to run Apex tests, you have an Apex test methods here. All the different APIs, you had to try to figure out how to interact with them. We've done a lot of work for you in bringing them into one place where you've got them all here to look at. I can take a look at the different environments that I'm working with to give you an idea of how this works. So if I do org list, this should show me all the different environments with which I am working right now. Now, the first one you'll see is the critical one. That's my development hub. I've linked that to a production org here. That's my dev hub. And this could be your production org, probably your production org. If you're a partner, this could be your partner business organization. This is where developers log in and say, I belong here, I would like to make some changes, please give me some environments to work with. And that's what I've done earlier. You see I've got this Readiness org. This is a Scratch org that I've built. It gives me a crazy username, but I never need to know that username. I'm going to always be authenticated to it while I'm working here on my machine. So I create all the Scratch orgs I want based on this dev hub to do the development work I want to do. I can do it all here. I can create Scratch orgs from the command line. I can open them from the command line. So here's all the functionality that I need to be an efficient developer on the platform. If we don't like the command line, though, We've got a brand new Visual Studio Code extension that encapsulates a lot of the functionality that I've just discussed. Up here at the top, there's a command palette where if I type SFDX, you'll see a bunch of different commands that are fronting those command line options. So if I do SFDX open default scratch org, you'll see down here at the bottom, it's running a command and it launches a web browser. It opens up the org if I need to go in there to do something. There it is. As you can see, I can do source push and source pull, so the changes I make locally, they'll push into the org. So if I come down here, I open this test up, I make some changes and save it. Now I just do a SFDX push, and you'll see it says push source to default scratch org, and down here we'll see the changes being made. Now I've pushed that up to my org. Not only do I have Apex stuff over here, I've also got objects, profiles, tabs, files we don't really want to open because that's not how we interact with objects, profiles, and tabs. So how do we interact with those things? We use the tools that you're comfortable with. We use the tools that you're accustomed to using. Setup user interface. So here I am in the page that was just opened for me by my Visual Studio Code editor, and I can use the amazing quick find. I also love this, and I can type object manager, object manager. So here's my object manager. And now I can go find my webinar object that I earlier created today. I can click on this, and let's create a custom field. So now I create a custom field. And not to be outdone, I'm going to call this field magic. So I have some magic in my demo as well. Magic. And length, this will be 80 characters. And all the stuff we are used to seeing, I do next. Now I'm putting in all these profiles. So there's work I'm doing with profiles. I have to keep track what profiles did I add to, what layouts did I add to. I have to save all this information in my mind. I have to remember all the stuff I've just changed. Or do I? I don't have to do that anymore because when I come back over to my command line or to my IDE and I do a pull source from scratch org, I'm now going to say take what's different from that environment and bring it all down here, bring it all back from that environment and bring it to my local. So now the code that I have here that really represents my application is what I'm going to see here. So you see I've changed the custom object, I've changed the layouts, I've changed the profiles, and now I've brought that back over. So all the changes that I did are now reflected here locally. I'm integrated to Git, so I can come right here and I can say I want to stage all my changes, stage them all, I guess. Stage them all. There we go. And then I can say doing webinar as my commit. And you will see that this is now all going to be pushed back into a place where my team will be able to work on it. I have to do one more thing, actually. I have to do a git push command just to show that the terminal is also integrated here. Instead of having to go to the command line, it's also right here. And now when I come back to my start, you'll see over here, refresh mine. Show you the branch, and you look at the release readiness webinar, you'll now see last update was 19 seconds ago, doing the webinar. So all the changes I've been making this morning are showing up here. They're all in the common repository where all of my team members are working. One of the things that's nice that I mentioned before is we have continuous integration automatically set up, very easy to do. There's a simple trailhead module that you can do. Right now it's kicked off 2 builds that are going to run a bunch of tests to make sure we haven't regressed anything. I know that we show the functionality. We can change this right now in your org, and it's immediately available to your users, and that's awesome and that's great. But I know that you've had that moment where you changed a validation rule or a workflow rule, and something didn't go quite right, and you scramble to undo it. And I can't see you through the camera, but I know you're nodding your heads out there. This has happened to me. It happens to everybody. You expect everything to be perfect. But this way, you do your work in the Scratch environment. You merge your changes into a centralized repository, and the tests are going to run for you and make sure that you never end up in that situation again. So if you're building with this new development mechanism, we will guard you against harming yourself or others harming you with the changes they're making by enforcing that the tests that you've set up are going to run every single time. Automatically set up running with Travis CI. You can run with any continuous integration system you want. So that is a quick overview of what we've got today with the generally available version of Salesforce DX. We're making a lot of changes moving forward to augment what we have here, but also to take it less from being a command line type of interface and more of a user type of interface. When we started this project, we wanted to get something into people's hands, and we said, let's build the underpinnings. Let's build the infrastructure, and let's deliver that to people who can spell CLI and can spell VCS and aren't afraid of some of these tools that we're going to let them integrate with. But after that's done, which is where we are now, let's build user interfaces that abstract away some of the complexity behind some of these command line commands and behind creating a scratch org at a command line and behind having to push in a version control system. And let's deliver that in a cohesive user interface that people can use across their whole team to manage this development experience. We have a tool that will be released shortly after Dreamforce. It's off cycle. We can iterate on these much more rapidly, which is great, and you'll see that coming out soon, which will show you your environments in a nice user interface. And the goal is to move so that you start from the beta timeframe where you needed a developer to now you just need a developer to help you get your org set up, and then he can kind of guide you along to the place where you just need a developer to just set the thing up, and when she's done that, you can self-serve and do everything on your own after that, to the point where eventually you won't even need that. An admin can set the whole thing up from scratch without any searching on Google or hiring of any contractors to set it up. So it's a progression, it's a process, we're going through it, and we're very excited about where we are now. We're very excited about where we're going, and we hope you guys are as excited about it as we are.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. It's exciting to see how the changes to the app development lifecycle are coming today for our developer community, but then it sounds like there's a pretty solid roadmap or investment in building an admin experience. So our admins out there who do a lot of app development and are working in sandboxes and maybe even still using packaging, like that they can have this kind of experience to look forward to and start to learn about. And maybe for our admins out there, it's a good time to start to get comfortable with Salesforce DX, even if they're not necessarily using it in production today, or maybe they don't have developers that they work with, but start getting up to speed on the language and the concepts. And I know that there's a Trailhead trail, right, or a number of Trailhead trails out there for Salesforce DX, and we'll be sharing those as well on Twitter. But it's a good time, even if it's not something you're going to use today, that you start investing some time in learning and spending time in these concepts. For everyone in our technical community or who builds things.
Yeah, the modules on Trailhead are pretty easy to follow. In fact, I had never used Travis CI before. I used the Travis CI in continuous integration module, and then I demoed it at Trailhead DX 3 days later. It's that straightforward and simple to do. So I think it's worth everyone who's interested to go in and take a shot at getting those modules.
Awesome. So I know that we do have some questions coming in about Salesforce DX. Alna, do we have any questions or feedback about Salesforce DX?
Yes, this is a big deal, I think. And I think it's time for all advanced admins and developers to get in on this and start exploring, because it's amazing the amount of productivity that can be gained here. So, and people are noticing that. Mark posted a funny tweet saying, "I have a development itch that I need to have a scratch orged." I need to have scratch orged. I didn't deliver that very well, but Phil and Jennifer, shout outs. They're really excited. Jennifer especially appreciates it keeping track of your changes. That's a great thing. And then there is one really great question from Daria, just to clarify. Can you actually push code changes from your scratch org to production?
The way you'll do that is you'll push them into your local machine, and then you will deploy them into your production org. So we don't push is just for interacting with the scratch org, but you can still use metadata deploy. In fact, there's a convert command that converts the stuff that's on your machine or in your repository into a metadata format for doing a push. So you can do it with two commands at the command line.
So we've kind of moved away from the idea of deploying from one org to another then. We're actually deploying from the repository.
That is the idea. Change sets, which was the deploy from one org to another, is not going away. You can continue to use it today, but we are working on merging the idea of tracking all of your changes for you, the idea of packaging and saying, here's the boundary of what I'm working on, and using a version control system so you'll have a smooth experience from I'm in an org doing the changes in the user interface to I've created version 1.7 of the thing that was 1.6, and then I'm ready to test that and in a UAT sandbox, or now I'm ready to test that or push it directly to production.
Great, thank you for the clarification. And also, in regards to version controlling, you showed an example with GitHub, but what about other version control repositories? Does it work with any others?
Yeah, one of the main precepts of our project was open in terms of tooling standards. People are very married to the tool set that they use. We didn't want to force anybody to have to use one particular type of tool. We didn't want to build Jenkins Force or Git Force either. We wanted you to be able to use the tools you have skills in, or within your organization skills already exist. So all I'm really doing is I'm using the SFDX commands, the command line interface commands, to work with the orgs and to deploy things and push things around. But working with Git, I'm using the direct integration that happens to be in VS Code with Git. So I can use the command line to push things to Git. That's just Git's interface to my local machine. So every version control system will have a similar sort of interface and a similar plugin to whatever tool you're using.
So for those folks who are wondering what this means for sandboxes, let's just clarify the sandboxes are still available for use.
Yes.
And they're not going away, but does this sort of change the decision you might make in terms of whether you do something in a sandbox versus a scratch org, and how does it change the decision about when you should use a sandbox versus this system?
That's a great question, and there's no one single answer to it, because there's going to be a bit of a migration that happens as you've got your existing process and your existing application content. You're going to need to move some of it out into Salesforce DX and push it into a repository so it's ready to be used with the scratch orgs. And as you do that, you decide this is a nice cohesive group of metadata that I work on or some team works on. Let's move that out into its own project. And then you can start using DX to do your immediate development and testing on that particular project. In the interim, you will still want to use Sandbox and do deployments the same way. I guess in the long run, Sandbox will be useful for certain use cases where you need some things from production or you need to do work against your actual customer data. Scratch orgs have no customer data. You'll load in some sort of default data so everyone's working off of a similar set, but it's not going to be customer data. If you need that, you'll still use it. So there's going to be use cases where Sandboxes will still have a lot of value when you're even doing that initial development, and they'll always have value for doing your integrated tests where you have your users logging in and checking, validating the functionality. But it's no simple answer. It's going to be a migration towards using scratch orgs when the opportunity is right and when the use case matches.
Thank you. So I see that we're just about out of time. So I have one more question, and that's for you, Leanne, because I know you know the answer to this one. This is something that folks are going to need to go learn about, right? And they're going to need to understand how this all works, start playing with it. So Leanne, what's your advice for the admins and developers out there who want to start learning DX?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a Trailhead trail for DX, and actually we just published out on Twitter, and we'll share it on the Success community as well, a trail mix that includes all of the Trailhead modules and all the content that we covered today. But Trailhead is going to be the best place to go and learn and earn badges around all of the features that we talked about today, Lightning customization, Salesforce DX, and even if you have never played with GitHub before, I know a lot of us admins out there maybe don't usually spend time in GitHub. Don't worry, that is covered in the Trailhead trail as well for Salesforce DX. So it's really your best place to go to get started learning about both the Salesforce DX concepts and also how you can start to take advantage of some of the Lightning experience customization and productivity tools out there. So with that, I want to say thank you to all of you for coming today. I mean, this has been wonderful. It's super illuminating to see the advancements coming on the platform, both to how our end users can customize their experience, how our admins can have even more power to change their pages and their end user experience, and of course, the changes and the enhancements to the app development lifecycle, which is super exciting for all of our builders out there. Admins, developers, our partners, everyone who builds apps. So thank you all very much for joining us today. And thank all of you who've joined us from all over the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night. We really appreciate you tuning in for Release Readiness Live for our platform session today. And we love hearing from you. We love hearing your tweets and seeing the gifts that everyone has been sharing and the questions and the feedback, both on Twitter and the Success community. And we want to continue to hear from you. And we mentioned a lot today that this is, it's important for us to hear from our customers, from our audience about product and also about how we talk about the product. So please fill out the survey at the bottom of the screen. Let us know what you liked, what you'd like to see more of. I promise it's really short, but we really do read all the results and we love hearing from you. So please make sure to fill out the survey and make sure to join us tomorrow for our Community Cloud session. So same time, same place. We'll be deep diving into the Community Cloud in Winter 18. And with that, today's broadcast is finished. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.